Hey guys, Gaius here with another Gaia Gear video. This time we're taking the next big step towards the finale with part 13 of my dissection series and episode 20 of the Gaia Gear radio drama. Where we last left off, our heroes recuperated after their defeat at the hands of Urian. The heroes learned of Dargol's true intentions for humanity as he and the manhunters have launched a massive coup against the Federation, with Dargol manipulating the Metatron resistance into coming to the surface in order to secretly enact his diabolical plan to seize control. With Krishna in Urian's custody, the two of them begin to form some strange relationships with one another. Krishna's softness and realism anchoring Urian to Earth from his growing spite and insanity towards the world around him. With Avarachi and his friends finally repairing the busted Gaia Gear Alpha, our heroes race towards the Federation capital in hopes of defeating the manhunters before they can have a chance to succeed. Now, let us continue this breakdown series with episode 20, titled Nouveau Paris. All images and characters are owned by the respective companies and creators. The crew flies over the capital. Place is deserted. Not a single manhunter ship or man machine in sight. They decide to fly over the city and take a look. Avarachi and Joe will take the center route. Ray, Messer, and Kellen will take the left, and the remaining Gaia's pilots will cover the right. The group splits up, but Joe is quick to worry that Avarachi is flying a bit too fast, but Avarachi says it's fine. There's no one here, it seems. It's really weird. Avarachi and Joe land at the Federation Assembly Building, but as they land, they realize the entire place has been destroyed. They look over and see a downed man-machine laying in the street, a busted Gussa. Avarachi tries to sense for anything, but there's nothing. There are signs of a struggle, but no one is here. Joe wonders where they went, and we quickly cut over to Madra. A distorted message is breathing through the radio. Kellen tells them that there's no one. The entire city is abandoned. He asks Kellen to keep looking, and Miranda asks what could this mean. Michael wonders if the Federation loyalists might have won, but the captain doesn't buy it. Their coup must have been a success, and it seems they've abandoned the city because of it. He tells Michael that there's been a change of plans. Dargol has left, and it seems he's taken the Federation officials with him. He asks him to go land the ship in the city for the time being. The man-machine units investigate the ruins, but they can't sense anything. It's too quiet. There's no people at all. Joe offers to go and find some. Perhaps some civilians are hiding underground. He offers to go find them so that maybe they can question them, and he asks Avarachi to watch his Dochati for the time being. Avarachi says sure, and Joe leaps out of the machine to go explore the city, in hopes of finding anyone. But just as he's about to get out, Kellen's voice comes over the comms. It seems they found someone, an old man who works for Metatron. It's Jack. Joe is amazed. Jack Bloom? Here? As the ship lands in the city, the crew all come out to meet with this legendary figure. Avarachi meets with the captain and Miranda. Madra asks where the old man is, and he and the two enter one of the abandoned Parliament officials' homes that's been left deserted. As they enter the structure, Madra is impressed that Jack Bloom yet lives. Avarachi asks who he is, and Madra explains that Jack is one of the original founding members of Metatron. He finds it a little strange though, as from what he knows, the old man disappeared 10 years ago. As they approach the door, they all ask if they can enter, and the old man lets them in. As Madra and Miranda lay eyes on him, there's no doubt about it. Jack Bloom is alive. The old man asks who the captain is, and Madra announces himself. His name is Madra Kalia, and they are crew members from the Mother Metatron. The man realizes that they must be with the landing party that came down a few days ago, and Madra says yes, and that it's an honor to meet him. He then introduces Miranda, the director of the Shar Continuation Project, and finally, he introduces the old man to Avarachi. The old man is quick to ask, "This is him? This is Metatron's new noble leader?" The captain asks if he's heard about him. The old man says that he's heard all about this young man. Great heir to Shar Aznable, come back to the modern era, that ever since he heard the news, he hasn't been able to stand still. It's amazing, it's like a dream. The man laughs as he came here all this way to see him, in fact, only for him to get caught by the manhunters. This is him, the heir to Shar. He's just as he imagined him to be. Avarachi laments that he didn't know who he was until now, but the old man chuckles. It doesn't really matter. He is yesterday's news after all. The man then walks over to a small bar and begins to pop open a bottle of champagne. His meeting deserves a toast. As they all take a glass, the man gets excited and explains his knowledge of France and the fun facts he knows about the region, particularly in the alcoholic variety. The group give a toast to Metatron's victory and to their continued success. As they all look over at each other, Madra isn't actually taking a sip. Jack asks why, and the captain says that they're in the middle of a mission right now, but the old man once again reiterates the line that reassures his biological relation to our beloved Kenneth and Gigi from Gundam Hathaway. The quote he says, once again, reiterating, "Madra, my boy, in a battle you should always allow for the things you want in life. Do that, and the goddess of victory shall smile upon you." Yes, he's absolutely the son of Kenneth and Gigi. If you all listen to his dialogue, his lines, and his mannerisms, he's absolutely their son. And if you're one of these people learning this now, I recommend watching one of my previous Gaia videos, where I actually dive into his connection to the two, his origins, how he behaves, how his parents might have raised him, and how possibly he ended up where he is now. And yes, his personality is definitely a combination of Kenneth and Gigi's, but with how he acts and what he fights for, he's actually been raised a lot to be like Hathaway, which I think is a really cool thing to come out of Gaia Gear's connection to this story, and lends theory to the idea that Jack Bloom is just an alias he's been going under his whole entire life. And yes, the name Jack Bloom throughout the entire story is always referred to in a tone that makes it sound like an alias. Kenneth and Gigi's son may in fact be named Hathaway, either Hathaway Andalusia or possibly Hathaway Slag. His very name being the reason he's adopted the alias of Jack Bloom could be one of the factors as to why his name is an alias, so that his family wouldn't have been targeted by the Federation. Anyways, sorry about the little tangent. Let's get back into it. Miranda takes a glass of the champagne, and she takes note that it's a bit warmer than she likes it. Then again, the power's been out for this whole time, so yeah, not everything is going to be the best quality in the fridge. Madra breaks up the casualness of the conversation and finally asks the question, where did the manhunters go? Jack then realizes that that must be the reason he's so impatient. The man laughs and apologizes, and finally gives them the answer they've been waiting for. After the Manhunter coup was a success here in the capital, the fleet had left. They've taken the Federation's parliament staff and taken them to Bavaria, the place where Dargol intends to make a new Federation capital. Miranda then asks why in the world did the Manhunters let Jack go, and Jack says that once they won, they didn't think an old man like him could really cause much more trouble, but that also, he left them there so that he can give Avarachi a message when he arrived. Avarachi immediately asks about Everly. It must be about her. Jack says yes. Madra asks what Everly's got to do with this, and Avarachi immediately apologizes. He didn't exactly tell anybody about what happened with Urian and what he said to him, that Everly was captured by the Manhunters after she disappeared and has now been taken by Dargol. Miranda and Madra ask if this is true, and Avarachi says that he thought Urian was lying, but no, it seems to be the truth. Jack says that overall she's fine. She's being treated as Dargol's honored guest on board his flagship. The man is quite the gentleman about it. When Miranda asks if Jack knows Everly well, he says that yes, they were actually traveling to meet up with the rest of Metatron together. He met her at the southern coast of France along the Mediterranean. She said her boyfriend was with Metatron, but that he himself didn't know that she was with Avarachi until they were captured by Dargol. Avarachi asks why Dargol is holding her hostage, Jack says that the captain has seemed to have taken a liking to her, that he's been somehow dazzled by Everly and the life force that she radiates. A girl like Everly is no doubt a fascinating person for a space Noid to learn about. When the captain asks why Avarachi didn't tell them that he could have trusted them, Avarachi says that he didn't want to trouble them. He asks them not to mention Everly or Krishna again. He doesn't want to have everyone else up in arms about it. Jack says that Everly will be fine. If the Manhunters go down, she'll no doubt be able to escape. Avarachi thanks him, and the scene quickly comes to an end. Alrighty, are you guys ready for some very uncomfortable Yurien and Krishna romance? 'Cause I sure as hell am not. We soon cut over to an abandoned cabin. Krishna is outside. She can hear the peaceful sound of the breeze and the morning birds chirping. She's then called to by Urian. He asks why she's up so early, and Krishna says that what did he expect? They're in the middle of nowhere. She can't really run away to anywhere. Urian then grabs her by the waist. He asks her if this is how lovers hold each other. He goes in for a kiss from behind, and Krishna says that he's being way too pushy. Urian then says that whatever happened last night was the best night of his life. They did it? Oh my god, Krishna, I can't tell in this moment if you're being incredibly stupid or incredibly brave right now. I really have no words for this. Krishna demands not to talk about it, and Urian says that she was beautiful. She really is his lady luck after all. Krishna says no, that she's just normal, but Urian says that he knows she still doesn't trust him, but that he will win her affection in the end. He then says that he shut off the Brahm Texter's Psychomu, just like he promised. He knows she was worried about him, but that he doesn't believe her when she says that he's hurting himself whenever he uses it. Krishna then says that the two of them shouldn't have ever met like this. She then runs back into the room, with Lila stepping in through the door. there. Lovers quarrel already. She asks why on earth Urian is sleeping with a prisoner, but Urian says that she's no longer with Metatron, so it doesn't really matter. Lila then asks about the Psychomu. He's dumb for turning that thing off. She then tells them that he better be prepared to fight Aparachi when he comes then. He's still alive and poses a bigger threat because of his survival. Urian then says that that's why he's gonna have to rely on Lila when the time comes. Lila asks why he isn't using Krishna as a hostage. Urian then says that she is very important, but he's not gonna do that to her. Lila says that Urian is losing it, that he's gonna trip up sooner or later. Urian then asks what harm having Krishna walk around will do. She's still technically in their captivity. What could she even do? Lila says that Urian is nasty, and the two are approached by one of their soldiers. It seems that Recon spotted the Metatron forces arriving in Nouveau Paris. Lila laughs, as they no doubt planned on attacking Dargol, only for them to find nothing, and Urian says that they still can't underestimate them. Lila agrees, and she proposes that they launch their own attack with their own forces that are still there. Urian agrees, and the scene ends with him readying himself for it. The Federation's capital. He knows it'll be where Aparachi is no doubt going to die. Back with Messer, he and Ray are looking over the shores of the sunken Paris lake. They look over, and they spot the Arc de Triomphe in the distance. But strangely, the Nouveau Paris even has the Eiffel Tower here in the new city. It seems through human ingenuity they managed to move these colossal historic structures all the way to the new capital. Seems like the capital flood was triggered by debris caused by a colony drop, possibly from the debris from the one in Double Zeta, with debris raining down all over Europe after the destruction of Dublin. Kellen then comes over and says that all of Paris's historic buildings were reconstructed in the new capital after the city sunk. Messer and Ray look at the old archway, and it feels like all the new materials used to reconstruct them look like they're all made out of plastic. Kellen says that yes, they are mostly made out of plastic. This newly reconstructed replica of the archway is made from reinforced New Age materials. It won't become degraded even after hundreds of years. Messer then realizes that this is just how the buildings inside the colonies are built. Kellen says that ever since the Middle Ages, the people of Europe have been constantly planting and cutting down new forests, that there's not a lot of real forests left on the continent. Ray laughs about it, and Kellen says that humans throughout history have been changing and remolding the planet in however which way they see fit, that we ourselves have grown too overconfident with our own technology, and that humanity needs to see the error in that they've doomed this Earth and they have to leave it. Ray says that she's not good at understanding complicated things like that, but that she gets that it's not good for people to be living on the planet. And Kellen says yes, to give reverse immigration a thought is insane. It would be unstoppable. Earth would be destroyed in its entirety by announcing it. Ray says that Kellen is really smart, and that she's impressed that he knows so much. Kellen says not to flatter him. He is just quoting the captain after all, and the three of them share some laughs. Kellen then brings up something about himself, that when he was a kid, he was a street punk too. He didn't end up going to school all that much. Messer and Ray laugh about it, saying that they couldn't actually tell, but Kellen says to look at him now, saying that the two should follow his example. The two of them start to think he's acting more like a wise ass though. Michael then comes over and says that the man they found did turn out to be the person he turned out to be. When Messer and Ray ask who the old man was, Kellen then surprisingly snaps at the two of them. They wouldn't know him. He then wonders to himself if he should get his autograph. When Ray asks how famous he is, Kellen says that he is super famous. Not Shah-Raznable levels of famous, but still famous. As they sit around, Joe comes over in his man machine. He wonders why they're all just sitting around. Kellen tells him that Jack Bloom is alive. Joe can't help but be frustrated. Who cares if he's alive? Krishna is still out there, being held hostage. He then calls out Michael, saying that he should be on guard. Michael says sorry, and the group quickly gets back to work. As Joe leaves, Messer starts to realize that Joe is starting to get more and more scarier by the minute. Ray asks what his problem even is, and Kellen says that Joe has to apologize at some point to Messer, that he's been lashing out at everyone because he thinks Krishna's kidnapping was all his fault. Messer is quick to apologize, as he didn't mean for him to be offended by it. He just made a really bad joke at the time. Ray asks if Joe loves Krishna, and Kellen says maybe, but that he didn't realize he had feelings for her until she was taken. Ray feels bad for him, and the scene cuts over to Jack and the others on the bridge of the Air Force. It's quite the ship, Jack says. Roger says that 3 of them were supposed to make it down to the surface, but this one is the only Air Force carrier left. When Jack asks why Mother Metatron isn't sending reinforcements, Roger tells them that they've requested it many times, but they haven't been sending them any. When Jack asks who's in charge of the ship, Roger says that it's Admiral Parrish who's in charge. This throws Jack for a loop. Parrish? He's leading their space forces? Madra asks if Jack knows him, and Jack says he knows him quite a bit. But if you listen to how he says that, the way he speaks, the two of them don't exactly get along. Madra then offers to show him the man machines in the hangar, and Jack gets a little excited. He's never seen Metatron's man machines before. He says that he was once trained as a pilot too, but not one that could use man machines. He was actually taught how to use mobile suits. The group then laughs, says mobile suits are pretty retro tech for someone like Mr. Bloom to be piloting, and Jack is quick to cut him off as he doesn't want to be called Mr. Bloom anymore, and that he just likes to be called Jack. He's reminded of the few times Beverly called him Grandpa Jack, and that just made him feel even more old. He always pinched her cheeks if she called him that, but eventually she just started to call him Jack out of respect. He hopes no one else wants to get pinched, and the group jokingly agrees, and the episode nears its end. But before they can head over to the hangar bay, Afarachi can start to sense it. It's coming fast. Urian is on his way. Episode 20. 6 more episodes left. Now, let's talk a little bit about what just happened, starting with the question, why did Dargol travel to Bavaria? Well, in reality, it's a really simple answer. He wants to become king. By taking the surviving officials to Bavaria, he can force them to concede and dismantle the Federation, so that he can reinstate himself as the new leader of the Earth Sphere. Now, as for why Metatron won't send backup, well, you can blame Admiral Parrish for that. Like I've said before, I hate Parrish, and the reason he's not sending backup is because he doesn't want Afarachi to be the one who claims victory in the end. He doesn't want to be a footnote in the history books. He wants the whole parade, and he wants to be seen as the one who led Metatron to victory in the end, possibly using Afarachi and his friends as a sacrifice for his own goals. As for Jack Bloom, I'm glad he's met up with our heroes. Was it a good idea for Dargol to let him go? Absolutely not. I think it was a poor calculation on his end. Letting him go and leaving him in a place where his allies can find him is not a good idea. He's been on their ship, he knows Dargol's plans, why release him? It's really dumb. But then again, Dargol isn't as smart as he actually is. He did fall for Jack's trickery at the very start where the two of them met, so it's not impossible for our heroes to beat him. But I am glad now that Afarachi knows Everly is being held hostage. Now the remainder of his fight is going to be his quest to defeat Dargol and try to save her. Very good stuff in this final arc. It's going to be awesome. Now, I was going to end off this episode rather early, but I felt like this was a good time to talk about something. And, well, that's Urian. Now, throughout the whole story, we haven't exactly had the best experience with this character. He's been a creep for the majority of the story, and seeing this new shift can be seen as quite a bit jarring for some people. However, there's a meaningful topic I want to share with you, and it has to do with Urian's character archetype, which is something I've hinted to for a long while now on this channel. If Afarachi is our protagonist, he's a heroic reversal of Char Aznable, one that fills the story and narrative role that Amuro once possessed. If that's the case, what does that make Urian? Well, from that logic's outcome, the answer is quite simple, and it's something I have hinted to before. If Afarachi is a heroic, compassionate version of Char with the character arc of a Gundam protagonist like Amuro, Urian is the dark mirror of that philosophy, a dark and twisted version of Amuro himself, a character who has the same character flaws as Amuro, albeit one who has them more overly exaggerated, but is a character who fills Char's story role instead of Amuro's. What I see with Urian is a character created by Tomino to answer a very interesting question about Amuro and Char's character dynamics. What if those characters' personalities and story roles were switched? What if Char was the young man thrust into a situation he was unfamiliar with and was given the role of hero in this story? And what if Amuro was the cold and manipulative villain whose role was the guy who betrays those around him for selfish reasons? The answer you'd get is Afarachi and Urian. Afarachi embodies all of the good things about Char and Amuro, all the good things that these two characters did throughout their journeys. Afarachi possesses Amuro's compassion, his courage, and his determination to keep his friends and loved ones safe, as well as Char's leadership and honorable nature towards his own people. These powerful character traits making him one of the most noble heroes that the UC timeline has possibly ever seen, a character who embodies all the things that Char could and should have been. But Urian, on the other hand, Urian embodies all of the biggest character flaws of Amuro and Char put together. Char's desire to beat his opponents and see himself at the top, his vengeful determination that pushes him forward, as well as Char's inferiority complex, all of these put together, while Urian possessing the baseline personality traits of Amuro. Amuro's hard-to-read and distant nature, the same type of selfishness that Amuro had at the start of the original Gundam, and Amuro's lack of wanting to understand those around him, a trait Amuro was notorious for in the original story. What results is a character who has these overly exaggerated traits, and a character who does the things that Char did in his story, albeit successfully, but in Urian's case, he fails at. He wants to be the big leader and be at the top, much like how Char was, but he also lacks an understanding of those around him, and thus his poor plans fall short. If Avarachi represents the good that Char should and could have done, then Urian represents all of the evil things that Amuro would never have done. Urian goes throughout the entire story making the same mistakes that Char did in the original Gundam story, only he fails at them even more. Every time he was beaten, his growing spite drove his mental instability closer and closer to more darker and more dangerous methods to seek victory. But now that he has Krishna with him, he's mellowing out. But regardless, his bad decisions are going to now hit him in the ass. He's disabled his own Psychom move out of his desire to prove himself to Krishna. However, this comes after he viciously beat his rival and let him live out of that same spite. He's doing all of this to prove himself to Krishna, but this is also being driven out of his own misunderstanding of her emotions. He's doing this for her, but he doesn't perfectly realize what Krishna actually wants him to do. She's asking him to stop doing this for the sake of his own health. However, he's still going off to fight because he thinks it's what a man should do. These flaws make him one of the most interesting characters I've ever encountered when it comes to a Gundam rival. His very personality speaks Amuro, but his actions speak Char. Thus, these things put together, making him a very interesting but also highly unstable version of a Gundam rival, one of the things that I actually believe works in his favor. Regardless, I do like the dynamic between Avarachi and Urian, as it shows that perfect balance and the reversal of these tropes. Anyways, that'll be it for this episode. Tune in next time where I go into episode 21 and the coming battle ahead. We are 6 episodes left, and this is going to be quite the ride for this remaining arc. These 6 episodes really have the fastest pace. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on notification bells so you can be caught up with the story. And this is Gaius, signing off. Bye!